All right. So let's wait for some people to join in first, and we'll take a look at markets as volume starts picking up quickly. All right. So, let me know if you guys can hear me. But we're gonna look at a lot of charts in a moment as things are developing. We're certainly seeing a lot of volume coming in. If you just take a look at these volume bars here, these are the intraday. These are minute candles. All right, feel free to say hello. Welcome everyone to a live stream. I feel like I come on to live streams when we start having a shift in market direction. So we're certainly seeing some elements of that today. Hey Rizwan, welcome to the stream. Another longtime viewer. All right, so we're seeing some volume picking in and looking at the S&P 500 SPY. This is what we have currently. So in the past few days, if you've noticed what the markets have been doing, it's been rather stale. But if you reference the SPY chart, actually what I've been doing in the last stock talk is looking at SPX, is that if we start crossing, sure, yeah, I can break down Goog. But when we start crossing the 20 period moving average on the SPX, that's a warning signal, right? And especially if we close below the 20 period moving average, that would be even worse. And as such, you can see this volume coming in rapidly. I'm not sure if there's any news release. Let me take a look. I'm not sure if there's a catalyst behind this move or it's just a technical breakdown. But it doesn't really matter either way. All right, so SPX has broken down out of its 20 period moving average. Referencing the hourly chart, you can see that on this hour with 18 minutes to go, we're getting below the 150 period moving average and some major support levels. So again, this is contingent on the end of the day, okay? And there's still 3 hours or so left. With GOOG, part of the FANG stocks is that they have not been performing well, okay, in the past few days. And when the market starts to slide, and with the FANG stocks leading to the downside, this is not going to be favored, right? And Google actually has held up well. We actually saw, it was interesting because I remember talking about Facebook a few days ago when one of the YouTube watchers was talking about Facebook. But Facebook, with market conditions going lower, as you can see, Facebook is having a very difficult time, even with a solid chart pattern, keeping above its moving averages. So this is what I meant by contingent on market conditions being favorable, and same with GOOG. So if one were to look at this candle, and if we close like this by the end of the day, that would not be a good signal, right? Even though we're above the 20 period moving average, we'd have a red candle that takes out the past 2 weeks or so. So again, I would wait until conditions improve, because what it seems to me right now is conditions just started breaking down in terms of the indices, right? So we're going back to the SPX chart. If you look at this, this more and more looks like a rounded top. A top that is forming. Now, let me just give you some insights. I'll discuss this further in my stock talks. But my insights is that obviously there's a big gap here, right? This is going to function as an intraday support that goes back down to 29.38 on the SPX daily time frame. Okay, intraday support. But it doesn't really have to hold because there's so many people watching this level that we can very likely get back down to the 150 period moving average and possibly even lower than that. Okay? Because, and also if you just take a look at this from initially where we broke down, which is on average around 3,000 on the SPX chart, coming back down, that only takes us 2% away from where we broke out. That's not very far, okay? Which means that there's a potential for us to get even lower than that. Again, like I said, long-term trend cannot change just based off of a few days. That's not going to change. But what I will view is opportunities at these moving averages. And, you know, what the markets like to do is they like to trick people, right? And what I mean by tricking people is maybe we break down and get towards the 200, or maybe even go lower, a little bit lower than that, but we end up holding the 200 period moving average retrospectively, which means looking back in time. And you're like, oh man, you know, there was so much fear down here. And I'm sure if we get down here to the 200 period moving average, there will be a lot of fear in the markets because it essentially will break down from the support areas down here, okay? But again, we'll take this a day at a time, but this is our initial breakdown signal for SPX. Let's take a look at TVIX, which tracks volatility. Let's see what it's doing. So I mentioned TVIX in the last stock talk that, you know, TVIX still on a downtrend. However, we've satisfied the precedent of a lower low, which means, again, we're looking for a lower high when compared to 2170. A lower high can be at $19. A lower high can be at $20. A lower high can be at $15. I don't know which value it will eventually end up at as the lower high, but that's the trend. Now, if in the small chance that doesn't pan out for TVIX and it moves above 2170, then something else is going on in the markets and things will become very interesting. As such, we have signals like that last year, right? In October when we broke down to December. But again, we can't speculate that that will happen because that hasn't happened yet. If you get a chance, SFM, please. Trade the crap out of it both directions. Okay. All right. SFM. Oh, this is Sprouts. Oh, Rizwan, you're the person who's been shorting Sprouts the entire way, right? Okay. All right, so there's a couple things, you know, you want to look at right now. Sprouts isn't that too influenced by market direction. It's a little bit influenced, but you can see that it's coming back down to the 20 period moving average, but we do have the MACD. We see the net MACD making a bearish cross currently. So let's zoom out to the weekly and see if we can see anything on that chart. Okay. Interesting. So weekly actually shows some short-term promise. So if you look at this, it's a long, essentially consolidation range, right? We have support levels at 1724, and then we have resistance all the way up until 28. On the weekly chart, you know, barring the effects of the markets currently, broad markets, this has the potential to push higher. So while it's on a short-term downtrend, on the weekly time frame, it looks more promising. And you can see with the MACD on the weekly time frame that it's attempting to push higher. But just remember, it is attempting to push higher, which means there's upside potential for sure. At the same time, we are still below the zero line, so just make note of that. I don't think we can take too much out of that because many times on the weekly MACD, we're below the zero line, but essentially at one point we did pull above, and that was the up move. So you can't really take too much away from that. All right, let's take a look at the VIX. Okay, moving higher. Interesting, at 16.95. Okay, I know what the markets are doing. All right, so I want to go to NQ's chart. So this is the NASDAQ 100 futures. I want to point this out because, when we look at the futures chart right here, we can see NQ leading the charge to the downside. If we look at this chart, you can see that the support level at 77.64 is breaking down, which is why I'm saying, with Google, Amazon, even Facebook breaking down, Apple kind of breaking down. Apple's not really breaking down that much, but with these FANG stocks breaking down, it's leading the charge to the downside, okay? And you can see at one point, the Dow was very reluctant to go down today. It was still, here's the trading consolidation pattern for the Dow. Look how far away we are compared to NQ. Now, what can you conclude from that? Well, you can conclude from that essentially one of the leading indicators currently is NQ, as well as the IWM leading to the downside, right? Financials are also catching up to the downside. That's not something we want to see, and that's actually occurring as well. So these are pretty big breakdown signals in the short term. So again, everyone needs to be cautious, in my opinion, in this current environment, because if you just think about it psychologically, right? If you were really bullish up here and we broke out, but now we're coming back down, it's not that far away just to break out of this consolidation range and push lower. Does that make sense? So we're not that far away. Let me just take a look at currently. All right, let's take a look at the intraday charts because I think quite a bit of things are developing quickly. If you are curious, I do have some shorts on the market currently. But these are just hedges against my long positions, and that's pretty much why I have them. SPY. Yeah. So if you can take a look at this, we certainly have a lot of volume coming through. Look at these intraday candles. These are 1 minute candles. This is a 1 minute candle of over 1 million sell volume, right? That's noticeable. And this is compared to yesterday. Did anyone notice yesterday's volume? Look at yesterday's volume, which was abysmal, I think. Lackluster yesterday, but today, this is 12:53 p.m. Eastern time, but we certainly have volumes coming through on the intraday candles. You can take a look today versus the candles made yesterday, right? And look at Tesla. My goodness. Who's interested in Tesla? We have RTY. This is the IWM futures. Pretty much all telling the same story. Does anyone else have any questions in the chat? I'll feel free to ask away while we kind of just observe these charts. Again, you can view these charts in various time frames. Okay, I have various time. I have 5 minutes set up, 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, so on and so forth. So, for example, if you look at the 4-hour chart, this is what we have, right? Currently, certainly a very strong breakdown signal If you asked me, hey, Kevin, is this a buying area currently? No, obviously not. Well, why is that? Well, it's because, was this a buy on this day? Right? Was this a buy on this day? No. This was the start of the initial leg lower. So this could be the start of the initial leg lower. Wow, the VIX is at 17.35, up 16%. That's pretty notable. Let's take a look at Microsoft really quick. I'm actually kind of curious. So Microsoft is going down, but it's still holding a nice support. Let me just take a look. Barely. Okay. So we'll have to monitor Microsoft as well. Yeah, I want to take a look at Amazon. With Amazon, there was a bear flag in progress, right? So if you take a look at Amazon daily, we have the initial pull and a flag that's waving. Now, a bear flag won't be a bear flag unless we're in the bottom end of the range, right? And this is what we did. We went into the bottom of the range, giving potential for a move to the downside. And this is what we're seeing currently. So Amazon, with the break of the 200 period moving average, doesn't look so good anymore in the short term, right? So just be careful here. Okay, we're going to switch back to the Dow and take a look at the intraday chart and see what we have. Coming up to my red line. Interesting. So SPY's already at 295. And then we have a near-term support at 294.46. So again, it's unlikely that we will close below the level today of 294. Okay? So if SPY gets to 294, which with this kind of momentum, it can do it rather quickly, to 294, it's unlikely that we'll close below 294 today. This is intraday support. So if we get to, let's say, 293, look for a buy near the end of the day back to 294 or higher. That's what I mean. So we can dip under it intraday, but it should hold by the end of the day. Wow. Pretty interesting how this is XLF financials on the daily time frame. If you take a look at this, it almost made an exact double top. But yeah, in the end, I think the market does really trade off of sentiment as well, and I'll have to take a look at sentiment at the lower end of the range once SPY goes lower. All right, any other tickers you guys wanted me to take a look at? Have again, if you look at RTY, this is one of the members told me about. This is quite fascinating. If you look at IWM futures, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 red candles in a row. At one point, this will have to snap back, at least to the norm temporarily. take a look at. So we're coming up. Let's take a look at TVIX. I'm kind of curious as where this is going currently. Okay. So interesting stuff on TVIX, right? On the intraday chart, you can see certainly we have a potential MACD cross to the upside. Let me look at this. 1436. Okay. So we're pretty much coming onto support soon. If not right now, it's coming onto support soon, okay? When this type of move occurs on the S&P 500 SPY, at one point it will have to snap back to the norm, okay? Which is probably 0.5% to the upside or so. Whether this does it during the day tomorrow, if we hit 294 a little bit lower and snaps back, it needs a snapback because we're very far away from the moving averages, the hourly MAs. And that would be a temporary snapback before another continuation to the downside. Intraday chart for SPY. So you can take a look at various time frames. If you do the 5-day, 5-minute, you can see with SPY on the 5-day, 5-minute, you can see how overextended we are, or to the downside, even on the 5-day, 5-minute chart, right? Which means that you see reject at the 20, came near the 20, the light blue line came over the 20. So you can get a lot of information just from these charts on various time frames, right? 5-day, 5-minute shows that we're very extended to the downside, which means that we're not surprised that we're heading higher in the short term back towards the 20-period moving average on the 5-day, 5-minute chart. But the trend on this time frame is down. The trend on the hourly time frame is down. The trend on the daily time frame in the short term is down. But then if you look at, if you tell me, am I going to take anything out of this on the weekly? Absolutely not. I mean, if you look at this on the weekly, I mean, that's a totally different story. Okay. So this is what I do, right? I talk to members about this. I post charts on Discord about this. And we can see there's a lot of indicators that's showing, in the short term, very, very short term, we're very close to that bottom, I think. The VIX is coming up on resistance as well for those who are interested in the VIX. Again, it can spike above, but the thinking is that we shouldn't be able to get above, a major level that quickly. Oh, and I think in the past, I think, what is it, 1 or 2 years, 1 year ago, right? Over 1 year ago, I did these tickers, right? In which I said, hey, this is one ticker to watch for that specific month. I might start doing that for the YouTube channel again. So just let me know your thoughts in the comments if you're interested in that one ticker. In the past, I think I talked about PAYC and AMD, I think. So PAYC, we talked about it down here. This was last year, and what an incredible up move down up into the $200 range, right? And then I also talked about AMD. This was talked about, I'm not sure, maybe it was initially on this move. I'm not sure when I talked about AMD, but at one point I did talk about AMD, and we're still nearing this, you know, area of resistance upwards of $30 and $29. So maybe I'll do that again. We'll see. I just can't add any tickers right now. I'm thinking, even for the group, I'm thinking like, with the markets just now moving lower, is it wise to start adding tickers right now? I don't think so. So, just some food for thought. Okay, so you can see Dow coming very close to the red line support that I had made a long time ago. And several indices are coming back to support in very short-term oversold readings. So this is what we see. So yeah, just some insights on how I digest technical patterns. Hope everyone have a great day. As we have seen a trend change back to the downside so far. Again, well, this is contingent on the end of the day close, which we will monitor as well. But I appreciate everyone for tuning in to this quick update. I'll see everyone soon in the next Stock Talk.